Welcome to Southwest Desert, where adventure meets the arid beauty of the American Southwest. Join us as we explore the rugged landscapes, uncover hidden historical gems, and dive deep into the rich legends and culture of this iconic region. Subscribe now and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on our latest desert adventures. Please leave a like or comment. This is very helpful. Let's journey together into the heart of the Southwest Desert. Welcome to Southwest Desert, where we explore the untold stories of the American Southwest. Today we are looking at the 1860s, where a complex struggle was unfolding in the shadow of the Civil War. While Union and Confederate armies clashed in the East, a different kind of war raged in the territories of New Mexico and Arizona, one that would reshape the Southwest forever. In the scorching deserts and rugged mountains of the Southwest, the U.S. Army found itself facing not one, but three formidable enemies. The Apache tribes led by the cunning Cochise, the powerful Navajo Nation, and Confederate forces pushing westward in a bid to secure vital resources. It was a three-front war unlike any other in American history. What makes this story particularly fascinating is how differently these conflicts played out. While the struggles with the Navajo and Confederates would be resolved before Appomattox, the Apache War would continue long after the Civil War ended, evolving into a brutal guerrilla conflict that would define the region for decades. From the indigenous perspective, the Civil War was largely irrelevant. The political divisions between North and South meant nothing to Apache raiders who moved freely across what Americans and Mexicans considered national borders. To them, the U.S.-Mexico border was simply an artificial line in the sand, one they routinely crossed for raids, establishing camps wherever they pleased. This border-crossing strategy gave them a significant tactical advantage, frustrating military leaders on both sides of the line. The Confederacy's ambitions in the Southwest were bold but short-lived. Their plan: use New Mexico as a stepping stone to access the gold fields of Colorado and California. These resources could have tipped the scales of the war dramatically in their favor. But after their defeat at the Battle of Glorieta Pass in March 1862, sometimes called the Gettysburg of the West, Confederate aspirations in the region were effectively crushed. Enter Colonel James Carlton and his 800-man California Volunteer Brigade. Originally dispatched to combat the Confederate threat, these men would find themselves fighting an entirely different enemy once they arrived. The Confederate invasion had been repelled, but the Apache War was just heating up. Their first significant engagement came at Apache Pass in July 1862, the very site where Lieutenant George Bascom's disastrous encounter with Cochise had ignited hostilities just a year earlier. The two-day battle left 2 of Carlton's men dead, 9 Apache warriors killed, and several wounded, including the influential Apache leader Mangas Coloradas. The military presence in the region was substantial. Under Carlton's command, who would soon be promoted to brigadier general, were 6 full regiments, most notably the 1st New Mexico Infantry Regiment led by the legendary Kit Carson. Before we continue with the military campaigns, let's take a moment to understand who Kit Carson was. Born in Missouri in 1809, Carson traveled to New Mexico at just 19 years old seeking his fortune. He built a career as a trapper and guide throughout the Southwest and California, becoming part of that unique breed of mountain men who opened the American frontier. Carson's reputation grew when he accompanied John Charles Fremont on his expeditions in the 1840s, and by the 1850s, he was the most sought-after guide and scout in New Mexico. When the Civil War broke out, Carson received a commission as a colonel in September 1862, taking command of the 1st New Mexico Cavalry to fight against the Mescalero Apache. Carson's first mission from General Carlton was clear: force the Mescalero Apache onto the Bosque Redondo Reservation, a desolate stretch of land on the Pecos River near Fort Sumner in east-central New Mexico. To accomplish this, he reactivated the previously closed Fort Stanton southeast of Santa Fe as his base of operations. By the summer of 1863, Carson had made significant progress against the Mescalero raiders. His success led Carlton to assign him an even more challenging task, subjugating the Navajo, the dominant indigenous power in the Southwest. This new mission represented a monumental challenge, even for someone of Carson's abilities. The Navajo were numerous and powerful, and the plan called for relocating them some 300 miles from their revered homeland. In August 1863, Carson led 6 companies of the 1st New Mexico Cavalry on a month-long expedition into Navajo territory in northeastern Arizona. Rather than seeking decisive battles, Carson employed a strategy of economic warfare. His forces destroyed Navajo crops and confiscated livestock, aiming to make life unsustainable in their homeland. Combat engagements were limited. Most captives were women and children, and of the 4 Navajo killed during this initial campaign, 2 were non-combatants. The U.S. forces lost 1 officer to a sniper. A similar expedition in November yielded comparable results. Few skirmishes, a number of women and children taken prisoner, but significant damage to Navajo resources. Over 200 acres of crops were destroyed during these operations. The Navajo weren't passive victims, however. In December 1863 and January 1864, they launched bold raids against the Mescalero who had been relocated to Bosque Redondo, attempting to recapture livestock to replace what they had lost to Carson's troops. The military response was swift and involved multiple units, and even Mescalero scouts who had aligned with the U.S. forces. The first battle on December 16th saw Henry Wallen's 7th Infantry Regiment engage the Navajo, killing about a dozen warriors for the loss of 1 Mescalero ally. Though the Navajo escaped, they were forced to abandon the stolen livestock. A second major raid on January 4th, 1864, led to an all-day battle in freezing conditions. Indian agent Lorenzo Labadie coordinated a response with Mescalero allies. By day's end, approximately 40 Navajo lay dead, with no losses reported on the U.S. side. Once again, the Navajo were forced to flee without their prize. Following these raids, General Carlton ordered a winter offensive that would become the decisive operation of the Navajo campaign. The target was Canyon de Chelly, an 80,000-acre labyrinth of canyons surrounded by vertical cliffs that served as the sanctum sanctorum of the Navajo world. Few non-Navajo had entered this sacred place since the mysterious disappearance of the Anasazi centuries earlier. Join my Patreon community and discover my art print products on my website in the links provided in my description. Also, if you would like a particular image from my videos, give the timestamp for image, and I will upload it to my website and Patreon. Thank you. On January 12, 1864, 2 columns of the 1st New Mexico Cavalry under Carson's command entered the canyon. Though the Navajo held the high ground on the cliff walls, the troopers could cut off supplies and movement through the canyon. The 2-day operation resulted in a series of firefights that left 23 Navajo dead. The brutal January weather proved to be Carson's strongest ally. Nearly 600 Navajo surrendered that month, with over 1,200 more giving up by the end of February. Manuelito's band held out the longest, but eventually, even they were forced to surrender, marking the end of organized Navajo resistance. What followed was one of the darkest chapters in this history, the forced relocation to Bosque Redondo in the summer of 1864. An estimated 8,000 Navajo were marched the 300 miles from their homeland to the reservation in what became known as the Long Walk, a journey reminiscent of the Trail of Tears that had befallen the Cherokee 3 decades earlier. Conditions at Bosque Redondo were unpleasant, to say the least. The Navajo found themselves sharing the reservation with their traditional enemies, the Mescalero, creating internal conflicts that only added to their suffering. However, unlike the permanent displacement of the Cherokee, the Navajo exile proved relatively short. In 1868, the U.S. government decided to uproot them from Bosque Redondo and return them to northeast Arizona. To their credit, the Navajo honored their peace agreement with American settlers, and today, their reservation, the largest in the nation, still encompasses their beloved canyon de Chelly. While the Navajo War was concluding, the conflict with the Apache continued in the Southern Territories. Captain James Whitlock's 5th California Infantry conducted several significant operations in early 1864. In February, they achieved a rare surprise on an Apache band when 19 warriors brazenly rode into the mining town of Pinos Altos. The resulting ambush killed 13 Apache, including Luis, who had succeeded Mangas Coloradas as a leader. 2 months later, on April 7th, Whitlock's men successfully tracked an Apache raiding party that had stolen livestock to Sierra Bonita, again achieving surprise and killing 21 of approximately 30 Apache warriors. But the tables turned on May 4th when Apache fighters ambushed a detachment of the 5th California at Doubtful Canyon, Arizona, killing 2 soldiers while losing 10 of their own. With the Navajo campaign completed, General Carlton launched a comprehensive spring offensive against the Apache in 1864. The strategy mirrored Carson's successful approach with the Navajo, a scorched earth campaign targeting Apache infrastructure rather than attempting to engage warriors who were, as contemporary accounts noted, difficult to track and almost impossible to catch. Their objective was to sweep the Gila River drainage area, marching north from Fort Bowie in southeastern Arizona, destroying Apache encampments as they went. One of the most significant engagements came on May 29th, when Captain Thomas Tidball led an 86-man strike force against Apache settlements in Mescal Creek Canyon. The attack resulted in the destruction of 2 large settlements, with 51 Apache killed and 16 captured, mainly women and children. Another notable incident occurred during Captain Julius Shaw's patrol along the San Carlos River in early June. After destroying a small encampment, Shaw's men encountered a group of Apache who mistook them for traders. In a bizarre episode, both groups actually camped together overnight due to this mutual misunderstanding. The following morning, Shaw revealed their military identity, leading to tense negotiations. The Apache claimed they only raided in Mexico, not in U.S. territory, and promised to release hostages and return, a promise they never fulfilled. The subsequent battle left approximately 30 of the 76 Apache dead. The final major operation of the Civil War period came in late July 1864, when Major Thomas Blakeney led the 1st California Cavalry on a week-long sweep through the Sierra Pinal region. After an initial attempt at negotiations broke down, combat ensued, resulting in 10 Apache killed, 2 captured, and significant property destruction. In a clever tactical move, Blakeney left behind a small detachment to ambush Apache returning to the site, killing an additional 5 warriors. This marked the end of major Apache combat operations during the Civil War period, though raiding and skirmishing would continue at a lower intensity. When the Civil War concluded, General Carlton returned to California with his volunteer regiments, and regular U.S. Army units took over operations in the Southwest. The Apache War would continue under different leadership, extending well beyond the end of the Civil War. The story of the Southwest during the Civil War reveals how the conflict extended far beyond the famous battlefields of the East. While Gettysburg and Antietam dominate our Civil War narrative, equally consequential struggles were reshaping the American Southwest. The campaigns against the Apache and Navajo would forever alter the region's demographic landscape and set the stage for the final chapter of the Indian Wars that would define the late 19th century American West. Join us next time as we explore another forgotten chapter of American Southwest history. Thank you for joining your desert frontiersman Alan for another Southwest story. Check out my large catalog of Southwest videos and playlists on historical tales, legends, lost gold stories, and adult bedtime stories. If you like a certain image, tell me in comments and give timestamp. Happy trails! Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more great content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.